I'm not someone who scares easily. I've lived alone for 3 years and never once felt uncomfortable in my own home. That changed about 4 months ago, and honestly, I haven't been the same since. It was a Friday night in October. I remember it clearly because the clocks had just gone back and it was getting dark, stupidly early. I'd finished work from home, ordered a takeaway, and was just sitting on the sofa watching something on Netflix. Normal evening, nothing unusual at all. At about 10:30, I got up to take the bins out to the front because the collection was early Saturday morning. I opened the front door, wheeled the bin down the driveway, and that's when I noticed him. There was a man standing on the pavement across the road, just standing there, facing my house. I didn't think too much of it at first. I thought maybe he was waiting for someone, or on his phone or something. But when I looked closer, he wasn't on his phone. His arms were just by his sides, and he was staring directly at me. I went back inside quickly, told myself I was being silly, locked the door though, which I don't always bother doing until I go to bed. About 20 minutes later, something made me look out the front window. I don't know what, just a feeling. I moved the curtain to one side and looked out. He was still there, same spot, same position, just standing there in the dark, staring at my house. It had started drizzling by then and he wasn't wearing a coat or anything, just a dark jumper, standing in the rain like he didn't even feel it. My stomach dropped. I called my mate Callum and told him what was going on. He told me to call the police non-emergency line, which I did. They said they'd send someone when they could, but it wasn't an emergency, so it might be a while. I checked out the window again while I was still on the phone to Callum. The man was gone. I thought, brilliant, he's moved on. Callum told me to double check all my doors and windows were locked, which I did. I checked every single one. Everything was locked and closed. I even checked the back door twice. I felt a bit dumb, to be honest, like I'd overreacted. I went to bed around midnight. I lay there for a bit, scrolling my phone, starting to feel normal again. Then I heard something from the back of the house. A slow, steady knock. Not loud, not panicked. Just 3 knocks, calm and deliberate, like someone who had all the time in the world. I froze completely. The back of my house has a small yard with a wooden gate that leads to the back alley. The gate has a bolt on it. I remember bolting it specifically when I checked the doors. I was certain of it. I rang 999 this time. I whispered to the operator what was happening and she stayed on the line with me. I didn't move from my bed, not even when it went silent again, not even when the knocking stopped and there was nothing but quiet. The police arrived about 8 minutes later. They went round the back through the alley. The gate bolt had been slid open from the outside, not broken, not forced, just opened, clean. To do that from the outside, you'd have to reach over the top of the gate, which is about 5.5 feet tall, and feel around for the bolt in the dark. You'd have to know exactly where it was. You'd have to be patient about it. The officer who spoke to me that night said there was no one in the alley and no sign of where they'd gone. He wrote everything down and told me to call back if anything else happened. What he didn't explain, and what I still think about all the time, is how the man standing at the front of my house knew there was a bolt on my back gate, because there is no way to see that gate from the street. You would only know it was there if you had already been in that alley before, if you had already been back there, looking, checking, waiting for the right night. And all I keep thinking is, how many times had he stood out there before the night I actually saw him? I've never written anything like this before. I'm not the type to post about personal stuff online, but I need to get this out because it's been eating me alive and I can't stop thinking about it. This happened about 6 weeks ago at my house. I live in a fairly quiet street, semi-detached, decent neighborhood, the kind of place where nothing really happens. Everyone knows everyone. You leave your car unlocked sometimes and nobody bothers it. That kind of street. My husband works night shifts 3 times a week, so I'm used to being in the house alone with my daughter who is 7. It used to never bother me at all. I'd lock up, put her to bed, watch some TV, and that was that. That Thursday night started exactly the same way. I put my daughter to bed at 7:30. She went out like a light. She always does. I came back downstairs, made a cup of tea, and sat on the sofa. It was about 9:45. when the dog started acting strange. We have a 3-year-old Labrador called Biscuit. He's the most relaxed, dopey dog you've ever met in your life. Never barks at anything, sleeps through thunderstorms. But that night, he stood up from his bed in the corner, walked slowly to the front door, and just stood there, not barking, not whining, just standing there completely still, staring at the door. I watched him for a second and told him to come back and lie down. He didn't move. His ears were flat and his whole body was rigid. I've had dogs my whole life, and I've never seen him like that before. Not once. I got up and looked through the small window at the side of the front door. Our driveway is just big enough for one car, and beyond that there's a small wall, and then the pavement. The street light outside our house has been broken for about 3 months. The council keeps saying they'll fix it, but they haven't. So the front of our house is quite dark at night. I couldn't see anyone. I told myself it was probably a fox or a cat outside that Biscuit could smell. But Biscuit didn't move from that door for 40 minutes. I kept checking. Every 10 minutes I'd get up and look. Nothing there, nobody about. The street was completely empty. But the dog would not move, and he would not settle, and the whole time he was just fixed on that door, like something was on the other side of it. Eventually I turned the TV off because I couldn't concentrate anyway, and that's when I heard it in the silence. Breathing. Right outside the front door, slow and steady, just on the other side of the wood. Close enough that when the house was completely quiet I could hear it clear as anything. My whole body went cold. I couldn't move for a few seconds. I just stood there in the middle of my living room staring at the door with my hand over my mouth. I grabbed my phone and rang my husband. He didn't pick up. He never can on shift unless he's on a break. I rang my neighbour, Janet, who lives 2 doors down. She's in her 60s, lives alone, but her son was staying with her that week. He came round within 2 minutes, God bless him. By the time he got to my front door and opened it, there was nobody there. He walked up and down the street, checked down the side of the house, checked the back. Nothing. No one anywhere. I felt embarrassed. I apologised and said I must have spooked myself. He was lovely about it and said not to worry and that I should call any time. After he left, I stood in my hallway, and that's when I looked down. On the inside of my front door, right at the bottom, there is a small letterbox flap, the old-fashioned kind, low down, that you flip open to post letters through. We never use it. I'd honestly forgotten it was there. It was open, not fully, just slightly. Pushed up from the outside just enough to let in a thin gap of cold air. And Biscuit was still standing there looking at it. Whoever was outside that door had been down on their knees in the dark, right there on my doorstep, with their face at the bottom of my door, looking through the letterbox into my hallway, watching me walk back and forth for God knows how long without me having any idea at all. My daughter's coat and school bag were hanging on the hooks right there in the hallway, right in clear view of that letterbox. I think about that every single day. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. I will see you in the next video.